What's up, War Report family? It's Tuesday, the morning after Monday, and we're talking about what Hugh Freeze had to say in his weekly presser in the lead up to Cal. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's morning drop. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
What's up, War Report family? We are back with another morning drop. Joining me, as he will every Tuesday morning, is my guy, Charli 5. Charli, let's jump right in here. It's week 2. Auburn demolished, absolutely obliterated Alabama A&M. There was lots to celebrate there. Before we get into what Hugh Freeze had to say, give me your quick thoughts on week 1, man. Like, how exciting was that offense here in year 2 of the Hugh Freeze era?
I mean, the stat that's going around that just blows my mind. It makes me angry and excited at the same time is the wide receivers caught total 7 touchdowns last year. And then you had wide receivers catch 6 touchdowns just Saturday. Like
wow.
It's no doubt what the focus is. And it's no doubt that the weapons are there now. It's just about watching them evolve and continue to get better. And it's so much fun to think about the possibilities of this offense, man.
It is fun. Speaking of the wide receivers, 4 of those touchdowns were caught by freshmen. So let's hear what Hugh Freeze had to say about wide receivers. He was asked about wide receiver play. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Really good, really. There were a few routes that were a little short, but outside of that, it wasn't really any MAs, no like wrong routes or so it was pretty basic game plan. This week will be more extensive, so we've got to get some good work in today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way up. But thought they handled their first real live go in front of a lot of people. I thought they handled it really well.
No MAs for our listeners at home and on podcast. No MAs means no missed assignments. Now, he was worried about that headed into week 1. Man, what does it say that they had no missed assignments really by the wide receivers with all the freshmen they played?
I mean, could you ask for a better way to start the season? Like you need these young guys to perform, and then they go out there and they don't miss any of their assignments. That's incredible. Yeah. Like their first collegiate opportunity to perform, and they don't miss any assignments. Here's the thing that caught me just then: basic game plan. That was our basic game plan. Just to throw it deep 3-4 times in a row and have 25-second scoring drives. Oh boy, well, let's see what the advance looks like.
Yeah, it was crazy. On Cam Coleman's touchdown, the stutter and go, it was like, man, he left the DB just frozen in his tracks, and you can't recover from that. Why was it that we didn't see that from receivers last year? Like, I don't understand it. It seems like basic football stuff, right?
It does. I've always probably oversimplified how easy it is to play receiver in college, but like there really is an art to the way you run a route. There really is an art to when you watch Keandre Lambert-Smith. I call him a technician. And then even Bryce Cain. Bryce Cain probably had one of the prettiest routes of the night, and then Thorne didn't go to him. He actually threw it to Cam short. But like there is a art to it, and Cam has that. Cam has so much. There's so much pressure he puts on you when he comes off the line. Like it doesn't take much of a little stutter like that to really put you in a bind. I mean, there's an art to it, and I can't explain why we didn't do stuff like this last year or why it didn't work. But for whatever reason, man, these kids got it, and they're able to make it happen.
Yeah, I just think when you look at the routes by Keandre Lambert-Smith, I think he caught the first touchdown.
Yes,
and then the one by Perry was, a good route. It looked like he slowed up there a little bit, headed into the end zone. I didn't know how I felt about that.
I bet he got chewed on that one.
Yeah,
I bet he got chewed a little bit on that one.
Yeah, so and he wasn't the only one. Look, I tweeted out a video of Malcolm Simmons, and Hugh Freeze responded. But he came really close to dropping that right before the ball broke the plane. So some coachable moments certainly there, right?
For sure, for sure. But yeah, I noticed that. That was pretty. That's pretty. You can't tell that from our angle from the press box, but I
Yeah.
thought Perry had pulled a hammy or something like that. The way he pulled up, but then when you go watch it again, I think he was excited and he was maybe showboating a little bit, and that's fine. It's
Yeah.
first game, 70+ yard touchdown. I forgive him. I'm sure they coached him on it, and he'll probably run through the line a little bit, a little bit more aggressively next time.
For anybody listening, that was absolutely no shade to Malcolm Simmons that I posted
No.
that. But it's one of those things that you probably need to point out. And I was just pointing out that, hey, Hugh Freeze probably pointed out in their Sunday film review. Look, there was a lot of talk before this game about offensive line and the shuffle that they were doing offensive line. They talked about moving Tyler Johnson around and Dylan Wade and Percy Lewis. Let's listen to what Hugh Freeze had to say about offensive line playing this one.
I thought it was solid. I thought we protected well, kept the quarterback clean, and then the run game was efficient, obviously, with 9 yards. I thought Percy's snaps were really good. Tyler made a few MAs, but overall I thought he was pretty solid. So it's good to see both of them play well.
Coach, your thoughts on the play of the defensive line? I know Bobby James and Travis got a start. Just thoughts on how he earned that job.
Yeah, we rotated a lot of guys in there and thought they were solid against the run. We didn't crush the pocket quite as well. We didn't call too many pressures really early on, and they were getting rid of the ball pretty fast, so it wasn't as bad as maybe I felt post game. But I thought the inside guys played really well.
So he talked about offensive and defensive line there, starting with the offensive line. A couple of missed assignments by Tyler Johnson, but overall pretty good. I think Peyton Thorne had a kept clean rate per Pro Football Focus of like 95%. He was under absolutely zero duress in this game and pass protection. And then in the run game, they didn't run it a ton, but they averaged 9 yards a run. Now, I know that this is just Alabama A&M, but talk to me a little bit about this offensive line. What did you see on Saturday that maybe you didn't see last year?
Well, first of all, I noticed that they were doing like 2 series at a time with Tyler, and then they would put in Percy Lewis. I was kind of shocked that Hugh said Tyler missed assignments because, if I'm not mistaken, he had the second highest grade of the whole team on offense on Pro Football Focus. I thought he had a spectacular game, and then Percy did well too as they came in. But the thing is, I guess it's just that. It's just that you saw Peyton be able to move around in the pocket, and nobody got near him. And again, I understand the level of competition, but again, I got to go back to, we didn't do that against anybody last year. We didn't light anybody up like this last year. Your only FCS opponent was Sanford. You only threw 1 touchdown and you threw 2 interceptions. Okay, so you're doing things you didn't do last year. And for the offensive line, I think Hugh needed to see that he's got options. We got options, man. Usually when your first guy goes down, you're in trouble. We got options.
You were right. Tyler Johnson graded out the highest in run blocking and pass blocking. He was a little bit down the list, but they all graded out in the 80s. So maybe that's what he was talking about on the missed assignments. Looks like it was in pass protection. On the defensive line, we saw them get after it. Now, there were 3 sacks turned in this one. Jalen McLeod, I believe, Keldrick Falk had one, and Malik Blockton had a sack. What do you think about the defensive line performance in this one?
I'm with you. At first glance, it felt like we weren't quite getting the pressure that I thought we would early. But then you go back and look at it, he's getting the ball out really quick. So it's really hard. And then Isaiah Rakes was held out. I think he's got a little bit of an ankle thing. I think maybe he was the starter, but Bobby Travis kind of came on, and he gives you a little bit extra element. Jason Jones played, I think, right at 20 snaps, graded out really high. I agree. The interior seemed to play really well. And then obviously you get those sacks from a bunch of guys, and Malik Blockton as a true freshman getting his sack. You kind of heard that he was going to be the guy in dime packages, things like that. Jalen McLeod is a problem. I mean, he is an absolute problem. It may not be a sack, but he is going to be disruptive. And I like that element to this defensive line.
Yeah. Kieran Crawford did not record a sack, but he had 3 hurries on the night. There were a lot of guys that played really well in this one. You talked about Jason Jones had a couple of hurries. Hopefully that translates to Power 5 play. Again, it's just Alabama A&M, but still you like to see that level of dominance.
Sure.
Let's move on to the defensive backs. Hugh Freeze was asked about the play of the defensive backs, and this is what he had to say.
We've got some improving to do. We can't panic and get so handsy. Be patient, stay in your technique, and then go play the ball. I thought there were a few good ones. J.C. Hart had a really good one. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he was beating himself up pretty good. But one thing I'll say about him is, he had that, and he turned around and made the tackle that saved them from scoring. And then we held them out of the end zone, and actually they missed a field goal too. So you don't ever quit. He gave great effort, but obviously we'd like to see him get that pick also. And he's young, but has talent. And I thought Ken Lee was pretty solid. Keontae was solid for the few snaps he played. Kite was pretty decent. So safety, we got some communication things we got to get cleaned up for sure. Particularly when you roll in the young kids like Caleb and Harris and Sylvester, we're going to need them, and we got to make sure our communication gets cleaner.
So he talks a little bit about communication there. J.C. Hart had a clear interception in his hands that went through and ended up being a big play for A&M. What did you think about the defensive back play in here? I would say they did fairly well. He was, even though he didn't make the play, Charlie, he was in position to make the play. And I thought there were a lot of guys in position, but Hugh Freeze thinks there's some work to do there.
And I agree with him. I felt like at times there were guys that seemed like they were open, and either the quarterback couldn't get it to them or they dropped the pass. But by and large, I mean, I agree with him. I mentioned that exact same thing on the post-game live stream where we talked about J.C. Hart. He just jumped too early. That's it. I mean, he just jumped too early, and then as he's coming down, he tips it, but he turns around and makes the play and saves 7, possibly up to 7 points, definitely 3 with the missed field goal. So that effort's there. I think the talent's there. You just need reps and experience. And then, the communication piece, if you notice, Jaron Thompson went in, he only played about 18 snaps. Like he was your starter. And then it was Caleb Harris, a true freshman, and Sylvester Smith, who has not played a ton at all. Those were your guys. So they're calling it, man. They're back there telling, they're directing the secondary. And I can see where there's possibly could be some communication issues there. But again, you know what happens when you put teams away like this, you get that invaluable experience that they got. And I think there's teachable moments and there's a lot of room to grow. But the talent is undeniable that you can see out there.
Before we move on here, just want to mention to our listeners, this episode of the Morning Drop is brought to you by the Rogue Shop. Go to therogueshop.com and visit them. Use code FREEZE5 instead of the E, put a 5 there. And that will get you 20% off this fall. Guys, whatever ails you in life, whether it's you need more sleep, if you got a lot of pain, stress, anxiety, the Rogue Shop has you covered. Longtime sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate our guy Richard for sponsoring us. Visit them again. Use code FREEZE5 to get 20% off plus free shipping at the Rogue Shop. We appreciate them for sponsoring us. Moving on here, I was able to get another question in here in this press conference, and I wanted to go back to something Hugh Freeze said about the tape becoming the resume at some point, Charlie. And so you finally got something on tape here. And what we saw Malcolm Simmons go out before Robert Lewis, which I thought was interesting. Now, some people were speculating that Robert Lewis had an injury, but Hugh Freeze said in this press conference, he said, look, man, we called a specific play, and that's why he went out there first.
Exactly.
Let's hear what he had to say about the wide receiver rotation one more time.
Yeah, I want to say this again about starting. I don't care. I don't care if it's Malcolm that started. He started because we had a specific play. Robert probably is going to start most games because of the experience, but it literally is a free rotation between Robert, Malcolm, and Sam. at that slot position and rotating those outside guys between Perry and Dre and Cam and Camden and Caleb. We feel confident.
Free rotation again. He says, I don't care.
I love that.
Who goes out there first? So I'm going to make him say it at least 3 more times this season that he doesn't care. But Charlie, look, I appreciate Coach Freeze because I feel like he has been extremely forthcoming and very honest. This is where I'm going to call maybe a tiny bit of cap.
Okay.
I'm not sure that you can look at how well Malcolm Simmons played on Saturday. And he may not get the start, so to say, who goes out there first. But let's move beyond that and talk about the division of reps. Now, it's one thing to have a free rotation, but you're going to keep the playmakers on the field. You're going to keep the hot hand on the field. I personally think that they're going to play Malcolm. I think he earned some more playing time on Saturday. Or what do you think?
Mike, the first play of the game, okay, if you just take Hugh's word for it, the first play of the season, if you're listening to Hugh, hey, this guy's not even the starter per se, but we called the first play to kick off our whole year was a play specially designed to get him the ball. I mean, that says a ton to me. That this guy's so electric. We're going to put the ball in his hands to start our whole season, like to this whole league, all the freeze 4, everything. We're getting it to Malcolm first. I think that says a ton.
Yeah, I think it says a ton as well, too. Now, Malcolm wasn't the only one that had a good amount of playing time. Obviously, Cam Coleman got the actual start, but we did see a pretty good rotation out there. We saw Sam Jackson get in on the action in the second half. I thought maybe it was more significant how they didn't play Sam really in the first half. So, as far as that slot is concerned, it looks like he's fallen behind both Malcolm and Robert Lewis at that position. Now, he did have a really good adjustment on a deep ball from Hank Brown in the end zone. Sure. Incredible catch. I don't know if you saw the video, Charlie, of the recruits in the background going wild over the catch. Yeah. But those guys helped put on a show for all the high-profile recruits that Auburn had on campus. I want to go back to some of the other guys. So Keandre Lambert-Smith had a big day. This is what you bring him here for. And they have said that he's been a leader in that room. What did you think about the day Keandre Lambert-Smith had?
Again, man, he is such a good route runner. Like, he just does things. He does the little things, the technical things, whether it's how I've got my body lean and which foot I put in the ground. Like, he does it. He does those things, and he's able to create the separation. I wasn't sure if he could really be a deep threat, so to speak, but I mean, he's got wheels. I mean, he's got the ability to take the top off. He can run all the routes, and I think he proved that because every single pass he caught was a different type of route that he could run. It wasn't just all go routes. It wasn't all. Right. It was a little bit of everything, and I dig that. I think he's going to be a big factor this year.
We didn't really see any comeback routes in this one. I felt like we saw some crossing routes, like
not a lot of stuff at the sticks. It was all pretty crossing it, like you said, and then go deep and stuff like that.
Yeah, part of the plan to keep it basic and not put anything on tape if you don't have to against an opponent that you should dominate, which they did. I think Auburn was one of 8 SEC teams that scored like 70 points in the opening week. Absolutely ridiculous. And they came up just 4 points short of setting an all-time record for most points scored in the game. I know they wanted that one, some fumbles in the second half kept that from happening. Looking forward, Charlie, to Cal. So celebrate the win. A&M, it was great. It's behind them now. I got a chance to ask Coach about the defense that he's looking at facing in this Cal team. Now, this is the second part of a home and home with Cal, but both teams seem to be different, and here's what Hugh Freeze had to say about that.
Coach, looking forward to Cal. How much of what you've seen on tape so far that you're worried about from last year? Or is your approach the same? Is this the same Cal team that you're facing? Or
defensively, it's the same. Justin Wilcox is one of the better defensive coordinators in the nation, has been for years, and Peter Sermon is with him, which both of those guys have have been in Power 5 conferences for a long time and done a really nice job, and they did a great job against us last year. And so they have quite a few returners on that side, and both those defensive ends are really, really talented, 44-7. You've got to have a plan for those guys. Linebackers are aggressive, play hard, and athletic in the secondary. So they certainly will they play us the same exact way they did last year? I don't know. But last year they were basically saying we're going to make you have to throw the football and win some one-on-ones, and we struggle to do that some.
Stack the box and make Auburn throw the football. That seems to be the defensive philosophy that teams have taken towards Auburn over the last couple of years. Did Auburn put enough on tape to make Cal rethink everything that happened last year?
I mean, you would think so, but if I'm Cal, I'll probably still do the same thing. I probably still make Auburn do it. And I honestly, I kind of hope they do. I kind of hope they do dare us to throw the ball and dare us to win the one-on-one battles, because I actually think you have the guys to be able to win those this year. I think you got multiple options to win those one-on-one battles. But I watched a little bit of the UC Davis game and Cal, and I'm just going to be honest. I just don't know. I don't know what they do well enough to make, to make you nervous. I'm trying to find the mismatch, and it's hard to really pinpoint where that actually is. I think this team is not as good as the Cal team last year, based off of, if you just take one game, a one-game resume and look at it. I know their portal class was very well thought of, but I don't know. I don't really see where the mismatch is.
It's interesting. I read some articles from the Cal beat, and they were pretty much blasting them for the win over UC Davis. It was, sloppy in a lot of ways. They came away. They tried to write some positives in there, but it was kind of a scathing review of that performance. Now, obviously, you got act as if your opponent is going to be a better team every week. I know Hugh Freeze is going to take that approach after losing to New Mexico State last year. I doubt they'll be overlooking anybody.
Yeah.
But, Charli, give me an early prediction here. Last year I said I felt like Auburn should have dominated that game. Jarquez Hunter missed game one, and he came in with some rusty legs last year. That won't be the case this year, and Auburn showed absolutely nothing in the run game last week. What's your prediction for this one, man? Give me a score here for the people that I can clip and celebrate you on Saturday, or put you out so that everybody can roast you.
I said I predicted that the line would be 13.5 when it opened. I think it actually opened at 10, and now it's all the way up close to that 13.5. 14 number, but I actually think somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 to 20 is kind of what the point differential is, what I'm looking at as far as how I think it'll play out. I'm looking at something like, I don't know, maybe 35 to whatever minus 20 would be. So let's just say 14. 35 that's 21 points, right?
Okay, 35
14. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think Auburn scores upwards of 40 in this one. Yeah. So I'm going 42-7. Lockdown defense by DJ Durkin. I am expecting a dominant performance in Jordan Hare. Dominant performance tonight by my guy Charli 5 on today's morning drop. Guys, that's it for another great edition of The Drop. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every single social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow morning with another morning drop. But until then, stay cool out there. It's hot. And War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Drop!